Hi everyone, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and this week on the podcast we have Kiki Monique, who is the co-host of the podcast I'm Sorry. She's also the woman behind the social media pop culture brand, The Talk of Shame. So if you follow her on TikTok or Instagram, you may recognize her voice. But it was really fun to talk to her. We talked about sort of how she got to where she was in her career, and also just sort of the nature of sort of being online famous and sort of what comes with that and sharing her pop culture opinions. And then we just jumped into a bunch of different pop culture topics, including a bunch of Bravo stuff, the Kim Ye of it all, Julia Fox, everything that comes with that. And then also just understanding when to share her opinion on things and when not to, and sort of the back and forth that comes with that. So it was really fun talking with Kiki, and I think you guys will enjoy this interview. So keep listening for my interview with Kiki Monique. Subscribe to her podcast, I'm Sorry, wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we're here with Kiki Monique, the co-host of the I'm Sorry podcast, also the person behind Talk of Shame all over social media, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. Kiki, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to be chatting with you and to pick your ear on everything about your career, and then also just get your opinion on everything pop culture, because I know that you're very outspoken about everything that you think about all the celebrities and pop culture and TV and everything. And I'm just excited to hear it.
I consider myself a professional talker, so that is my title.
I love it. So you co-host the podcast, you post a lot on social media about kind of your takes on different celebrity and pop culture things. You also write for The Dip. Is there anything that I'm missing in that list of things that you do?
That's pretty much sums it up. I mean, just a lot of gossip and celebrity and entertainment. And, I like to throw in social justice every once in a while.
Definitely. And so before we get too much into it, I'd love to just kind of take a step back and just hear maybe like the Cliff Notes version of how you kind of got to where you are. How did you get to this position where you can make a living off of, dissecting pop culture for a living? I mean, that's kind of the dream for a lot of people.
I mean, it is the dream. I mean, it's still kind of my dream. I mean, it's still working at it, right?
Of
But
course.
it takes a lot of avenues. I mean, I've had sort of an unorthodox career path, but I think that's always been me. I've dipped my toe into so many different things. I like to believe I'm one of those people that knows a lot of things about a lot of things. I started off, doing radio, but then I got into accounting. I've been all
Accounting.
I've done it all because I mean, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and the only way to do that is to know a business inside and out, right?
Totally.
But I always have had a creative mind. I actually recently was unpacking because I moved. I was living in Brooklyn for half my life, and I just moved to LA, and I was unpacking some stuff, and I found this journal entry I made when I was like maybe 9 or 10, and it was like, my dream is to move to LA and be an actress, and I think I always knew I wanted to just be in entertainment, and so I sort of just like kind of found mentors over the years and tried my hand at a different things. The thing is, life, you get like derailed and distracted sometimes by money, right? You find a career and you're like, oh, this isn't what I want to be doing, but I want to be making money. But if it's what you want to do, you always, find a way back to it. And that's how I got back into, podcasting, which I really do love.
Mm-hmm. So you said you started in radio. Do you feel like that's sort of the itch you're scratching again? Is just sort of that it being in that space again, and you're feeling kind of at home there?
Totally. I mean, I grew up, I listened to Howard Stern. Like, he was always someone I like really strive to be like. And then, over this lockdown, I sort of unlocked this other side of it, which was TikTok. I was so used to being behind, the camera, or, behind the microphone. And so being in front of the camera was different, but I did like it. And TikTok allows you to just be yourself. You don't have to put on an act, which I really like too. So then that kind of took off. And so the combination of just like the podcasting, but also being able to, make little videos and do things on the spot has been really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Is TikTok what led to you kind of doing this podcast and kind of getting that position?
It actually is. One of my co-hosts, I didn't realize at the time she was following me. And then they were building this podcast. They were looking for this third voice. And she was like, I follow this girl, Kiki. I think she would be a really great addition to the team. And so, yeah, just it was really awesome.
I mean, that's an amazing lesson in just sort of like, once you get over that hump of putting yourself out there in that way, and just because I think that is a big hump for a lot of people, myself included, just sort of like, okay, like realizing that people do value your opinion on certain topics and they like to hear what you have to say. Once you get over that hump, you never know who's going to start following. You never know who's going to come across your page and be working on piecing together a podcast with three voices. Like I kind of felt like maybe the right place, right time for you.
It totally is. Like, I think a lot of people like get into like social media, or they want to be influencers, and you think you're making a bunch of money like once you hit a certain number of followers. That's not the case. You just have to keep going and putting content out, and people will just start seeing your face, and that's how the opportunities will come.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you recently took a break from TikTok, and you kind of focused more on Instagram. Can you speak to why that was? Kind of what was it? Was there a burnout element to it? Was there a kind of negative feedback element to it? Because I know, like, I'm big, I tweet a lot, and I know that like sometimes the feedback element can weigh down and kind of push you away. So I'm curious what was behind that little break for you.
When I first started Instagram, I literally had it as just like, a place to share food pictures with my friends. I wasn't really thinking of it. And so when I got into TikTok, it was like, oh, okay, I can sort of post like 10 times a day, just ranting about whatever I want to talk about. But then I realized sort of like, you want to start making money at some point, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I realized that you can kind of make money easier if you have like a loyal following on Instagram. So I was like, let me put some effort into really building community there. And I will say, Instagram followers are a bit more loyal than TikTok, and I say that even as someone who loves TikTok, because I'll see one video, I'll start following them, but then I don't really think I keep up with them the same way I do people I follow on Instagram. So I really did want to spend a lot of time building that community there. And obviously I want to go back to TikTok, but I want to figure out, what exactly it is I want to use it for. Cause they're two different mediums. You're not going to carry your TikTok following over to Instagram and vice versa. So you got to give them each equal amounts of attention.
Yeah. What do you think it is about, Instagram? Like, what do you think makes an Instagram following more loyal and sort of more of a community versus TikTok? Like, what do you think the difference really is there?
It's really been hard. I got really embedded, I think, a lot in the Instagram side with the Bravo community, which is like a whole other community in itself. And I guess it's more like, with Instagram, you can kind of see who's following who. People, repost each other very easily through stories.
Right.
And so it's just like there's a trust there that it's like, I think it's harder to build on TikTok.
Mm-hmm. From your TikTok success, is there a particular video or opinion that you had or take that you had on a story or celebrity that blew up for you and that you found that people were like kind of found, I don't know, that kind of they were engaging the most with, or they found the most refreshing, or they found kind of they latched onto?
I think it was with reality TV specifically, it was when I went into the Southern Charm stories, like that was sort of an accident. Again, we were going through this like, summer of 2020, and I started relating everything back to like, shows I used to watch. And I just remembered this one episode of Southern Charm and being like, that was really weird. I remember feeling really weird about it at the time, let me go find it. And when I went to go find it, it was gone, and it kind of led me into this deep dive of like, where did that episode go? Wait, there's like a few more episodes missing. And then before I knew it, Variety had picked it up and people were like, why is this missing? And Bravo had to answer for it. And, it's just kind of, I love stuff like that are just sort of accidental things because I love them and they become big stories.
Can you talk for people listening or watching that aren't familiar with what that was? Because I remember that happening. I didn't realize that you were the person that really uncovered that. Can you just speak a little bit to what that was? And again, because that's a big find. I didn't realize that was you, Kiki.
Yeah, so it was originally I was looking for this episode where Thomas and his father had gone out to lunch and Thomas was going to pay the bill and his father was like, "I'll leave the tip, because I would like to get rid of these Lincolns." And it was a very like, like, why do you want to get rid of things with Lincoln on it? Okay, I get where you're going. So I was like, let me
Mm-hmm.
find that episode and I couldn't find it. But I found it, I think, on YouTube. So I was like, let me download that. And then I started just like looking at other episodes, and I was like, okay, there was Catherine, and she was walking through like a slave cemetery on her yard. And I was just like, wow, I can't, I knew it at the time I was watching it. I felt like uncomfortable about certain things, but then just rewatching it in that moment felt so
Exactly.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so, then they were removed, but again, I found them on YouTube. And then, Bravo did say, we removed like 3 or 4 episodes to kind of review and see. They put all the episodes back except the one where Catherine was walking through the graveyard. They put it back, but they edited out that scene.
Got it.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting find. I personally later said, I kind of wish they had left that scene in and maybe had some education around it versus just like completely deleting it. But interesting all the
Yeah,
same.
I guess you can't. Yeah, it's like you can't win them all. But I think I think that like that gets into the kind of a larger conversation. I think that's been had over the past 2 years, especially on Bravo. I mean, Bravo is sort of my sweet spot in terms of what I kind of commented. I have a lot of Bravo people come on this podcast, and they've obviously been making a lot of efforts in terms of bettering the representation and diversifying some of their all white casts, and some of it's been successful, some of it hasn't been as successful. And I'm curious, kind of again, since you were sort of you uncovered that thing with the Southern Charm thing, and then they had that interesting season, I think last season, when they addressed some of the stuff that was happening in 2020, and I think it was kind of up and down in terms of how successful that was.
Yeah.
But how do you think that Bravo's been doing in terms of that? Because I think, I guess I want to let you answer first, because I have some stuff to say, but I'd love to know
Yeah.
what you think.
I mean, look, I love any attempt at like trying to diversify. I just think that the part that's missing is like the behind the scenes because like,
Sure.
throwing, a black friend with a white friend with an Asian friend with a Mexican friend, okay, it looks good on paper, but like, are the people behind the scenes who are filming when they're interacting in certain ways? Are they understanding these nuances
Mm,
and kind of knowing like this should air, this might trigger people, and I think that element is missing. And also, I mean, the reason we love Bravo shows is because of, actual true friendships. And so just throwing people together that aren't friends is never going to be successful. So they're missing that part as well.
yeah, definitely. And I think something that I learned from Summer House, and I think we all knew this, but I think seeing it, this most recent season of Summer House, seeing Sierra and Maya be able to share their experiences as Black women in a predominantly white space, and to have to lead that conversation with the whole house, which I think is one of the best conversations around race that I think we've seen on Bravo yet. I think it just proved that like you can't just throw one person of color into an all white cast and call it a day. Like I think that it's
Yeah,
like seeing them talk about their experiences and then parlay that and explain that to the rest of their cast, I think was really affecting. And I think that it just showed like, now I think about what Ebony went through in last season of New York or something like that, where it was just sort of like, okay, let's plop her in here and see what happens. Like that's not the effective way to do it. So I think that, to me, Summer House was indicative of sort of what this next kind of step needs to be for some of these shows.
totally. I mean, I loved that moment between Ciara and Maya, and I even did a post about it and shared my story because I remember going to the Hamptons and I had this experience where this white girl came up and grabbed my hair, and I remember just feeling so out of sorts, and the people around me were shocked, but they didn't know what to do, right?
Mm,
So it's good to see those moments and know that other people feel that way. And it's not forced. It's just like,
no, it's not at
hey, this
all.
is what happens. And I want to let you guys know so that, you aren't, blind to this. And it was really
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah, for sure. So what other Bravo shows are you watching right now? Are you somebody who watches everything? Like what are your kind of favorites that are airing right now?
I pretty much watch everything. I don't typically do spinoffs, but I have started watching Candy's new spinoff, which I will say
Candy
is
and the
really
Gang.
entertaining. So I think I'm totally going to get into that. Obviously, I watch all the Housewives. I mean, I don't think there's one that I don't watch. I'm even getting back into Top Chef. Like I loved it when it
Uh,
first came out. There was a lull, but it's like the last two seasons have been awesome.
I
So I'm
agree.
getting back into that.
Yeah.
Below Deck. I mean, I will watch any Below Deck, and I just realized that the Australia one was on Peacock, so now I'm watching that too.
I haven't I just like it's not that I think I wouldn't like it. It's not that I have anything against it. I just like I have to like hold a certain part of my time and just be able to dedicate it to like non-Bravo shows. So like I haven't done the below deck thing and I know that eventually I will and I'll love it. But like
Yeah,
but you know, but I'm to me, Summer House is the best show on Bravo right now in terms of the ones that are currently airing. Do you share that opinion?
agreed. I mean, I'm enjoying every single episode more than the last. Yeah.
So break like give me the breakdown of your opinion on what's going on between Lindsay, Austin, and Sierra.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like this is one of those situations where I'm actually, for once, not team anybody. I am team, this is awesome TV. And, like at the end of the day, the only villain in this is Austin, right? And so I'm team just like, let's just get to the point where we all hate Austin. But
Yeah,
either way, they're just making really good TV.
and somewhat predictably, honestly, it's like the conversation is not. I think a lot of people think that. A lot of people are like, we need to blame Austin, we need to blame Austin, but kind of predictably, and like this happens a lot, which is like it's ending up being Lindsay versus Sierra, or like I guess Lindsay and Danielle versus Sierra, and like it's so frustrating to watch because I think again a lot of people are just like, okay, no, the common denominator here has always been this one guy and who just like somehow
Yeah.
skates through these situations, and it's like, I mean, we saw in this most recent episode, he wasn't around that next weekend, so he didn't have to kind of deal with the sort of lingering tension and whatever blew up at that Italian dinner that we just saw, but. It's so frustrating because I think it's putting a lot of the blame on, I think on Sierra in particular. I think fans are being really hard on Sierra, and I see both sides of what her and Lindsay are. I just don't think that like they see eye to eye on what the situation is, and they kind of never will. But it's frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, anyone, I think that every person, I mean, at least I think every person has been Lindsay and they've also been a CR, right? And it's like, you know, we all saw that Watch What Happens Live where Austin dogged Lindsay out and we were just like, you know? And look, she came back into the house and maybe she wanted to like get back a little bit because that is a humiliating experience, but you also are kind of like, girl, you were too good for him. Let that go. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, it's
I
so good to
know, I
watch.
know, and I think it's important that you said like at the end of the day, this is just like really amazing TV because I there's another sort of thread of kind of viewer commentary that I'm seeing. It's like, oh, like get Austin off my screen, like get these Southern charm boys off Summer House, and it's like, well, I understand that, but also like without them around, the season would not be what it is. You know what I mean? So you have to have these. I think there's sort of an intolerance for people that people don't like totally love to be around on these shows that we love, but like you have to have a villain. You have to have somebody messy there to bring us the entertainment.
I mean, I think that was like the biggest sort of like aha moment I had as a Bravo watcher because yeah, I used to be super hardcore team, this person or that person. And then I realized I fluctuated. Sometimes I hated a person one season and then I loved them. And then it's like I go back even to my posts because look, everything's in my feed and I've like completely dogged this person out. And then maybe they start following me. And then I feel bad because I like them later, but I'm not going to take it down because I think if you are a true Bravo celebrity, you understand that a fan may love you one day and hate you the next. And, if you see my post where I dogged you out, all right, but like also look at my later post where I was giving you props.
Totally. No, I mean it's not even season to season for me. Sometimes it's episode to episode in terms of how you really feel about somebody. But I totally agree. I think the Bravo celebrities who play the game the best understand that and they can take they can take the bad because they know that they know that usually eventually the good comes flowing back around. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Who do you think understands that kind of best from your experience?
I will say, actually Leah from New York, I think is
Mm,
pretty, because I've definitely posted about her in the past, but I when she first came on, I was really excited about her because it was like young blood, but I definitely go back and forth with her.
yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I do actually like her as a reality TV star. Um, I think of a lot of the people from Beverly Hills, right? Like Lisa Renna. It's like I definitely go back and forth with Renna
Hmm.
a lot. Um, and like even like an Erica Jane. I love Erica Jane, but like,
Me
I
too.
get frustrated with her, but I still love her.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, exactly. Last season, it's sort of like, no, I didn't think she knew, but she was handling the situation very poorly, but I loved her for several seasons. And so it's a mind. It really, it
Yeah.
really is. What do you think about the recent news that Real Housewives of New York is being split into two shows going forward? What do you think about that as a solution for kind of this really lackluster past season they had?
I mean, like the past season had so many, I mean, it was COVID, right? So they couldn't do a lot of the things they normally do. They were introducing this new character that really had to make a name for herself. Ebony had to really come in there and make a name for herself. Um, and you have these old heads who were just kind of, I think, scared and trying to hold on to their apples. So there were just so many elements that were just like, I think I knew it was just going to be like not a great season. I love everything about the idea of these like legacy, New York stars having their own show. And I hope that changes because I think there's like a few legacy people, right, that like in New York over the years that we could see on that show. But I definitely want to see a new New York cast because, when I think of my New York friends, we don't look like the Ramonas, the Luanns. Like that's not what we look like. We do have like, we probably have, a few Colombian women and Mexican women and Asian women. And like that is what my group is made out of. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty normal for New York. So to have that, to find a true friend, friend group that is representative of New York and will flow on screen, I think will be really cool to see.
I completely agree. I loved the announcement. And I think that like there was no perfect way forward. And but it was pretty clear. And I think it gets back to what you said earlier about like the group being genuine friends. I think it was pretty clear that like the legacy women, quote unquote, there was not really a path forward for them and anybody new. I think like it just wasn't going to work. And I think but also at the same time, these women are too beloved by fans from watching them for over 10 years to be completely let go out of the Bravo, Peacock, whatever it's going to be universe. And so I totally agree. And I think the idea of getting a fully new New York, very New York cast is like so exciting. And I think, I don't know, I think I think they're handling it well. And I think that like it's got a promising move forward.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to have to venture out to Brooklyn or Queens though to find a
And
real
I hope they
group. Get out
do.
of
I hope they
Manhattan.
do. Like
Yeah.
acknowledge that there are other boroughs besides Manhattan in this city. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And something that I'm curious about is like, okay, so let's say they bring back Jill and Dorinda and like Kelly Ben Simone or something for Legacy. Does Is it sort of like a before Legacy and after Legacy in terms of like who can join either show? Like, you know what I mean? Like, would they ever? I just don't. Will there ever be any crossover? Will there ever be people jumping between the shows? It opens up a whole other world of possibilities.
I know. I mean, I would love to be on that development team. It sounds like a fun project either way.
It sure does. And I also think I'm curious what you think about the Vanderpump Rules of it all, because I kind of think that this is what they should have done for Vanderpump Rules 2 seasons ago, which was like acknowledge
Oh,
that there are some really beloved fan favorite cast members who have been around for a while, but they aren't really working in this format of a show anymore. Give them a different show and then bring a whole new kind of group of servers around. But I think they missed their opportunity to do that. So I'm do you watch Vanderpump Rules?
I love Vanderpump
Okay,
Rules.
so
Yeah.
what do you make of sort of the current state of Vanderpump Rules? So we're getting a lot of news about the cast outside of the show, which the cameras aren't rolling, so we're missing all of that. So
Yeah.
what's your kind of vibe with Vanderpump Rules these days?
Yeah, I mean, look, at some point we knew that none of these people needed to be behind a bar anymore, right? It was
Right.
like the reality stars, nobody is actually checking in for their shift. But we do want to know what's going on with them. And so, yeah, like, and right now is like, yeah, so many things happen. We have multiple breakups and divorces, we have all of these new kids. Yeah, like there needs to be something around these and it doesn't mean they have to go to another show. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh, prep them for Housewives. No, they
No,
belong in the Vanderpump universe.
for
Absolutely.
sure.
There just has to be like, what have they evolved to? Because we want to know. Look, I even want to see what Jax is up to. I know he gets like, people do not like him, but I will say that every time he shows up on a live on my IG, I go in and I'm entertained. And I I don't know. So I definitely want to see what's up.
That says a lot about you. I'm blocked by Jax on Twitter. I can't engage, but I appreciate your openness to to checking on what he's up to.
I love mess. People know that about me.
There we go. So I mean, and I think just generally, I'm curious what you are excited about in the Bravo universe. We have a lot of, we got the Atlanta trailer earlier today. Beverly Hills is coming back in May. Salt Lake City is filming. There's a lot to be excited about, I think, if you're a Bravo fan. So what's sort of top of mind for you that you're looking forward to seeing how it turns out?
I think it's like whatever pops up in my feed, I like remember to get excited about. So like
Totally.
today, I'm super excited about Atlanta. When I'm reminded about Dubai, I get super excited
Yes,
about Dubai.
I keep on forgetting about Dubai.
Yeah. Obviously Beverly Hills. I'm like, this is the first time I'm living in LA for the first time. And so I feel like, I don't know, like where are they going to go? If there's no COVID, they're going to be going to restaurants again. I want to see where they go and, be a stalker. And
I love that for you. All right, so let's venture out of the Bravo verse for a sec. I mean, I think one of the biggest celebrity stories of the past several months has just been the Kimye divorce and everything that's kind of come with that whole situation. I mean, I guess the latest is that Kim showed us Pete's tattoo. We saw Kim and Kanye co-parenting at a soccer game after a lot of that Instagram back and forth happening. So maybe it's calmer waters right now with them. I don't know. Where do you stand with it, with all of this right now?
There's so many things that are happening where certain things happen and I'm like, oh, we should not be witnessing this. Like this is my nosy side is like, I want to know every little detail, but then like my empathetic side is like, it is not our business. I feel empathy for anyone involved in the whole situation, right? I feel empathy for Kanye. I don't like some of the things he was doing to Kim. But I understand like he's in pain. Look, we've all been dumped, and this is like a whole other level because he was married, has kids, and so I get it. Um, Obviously, I feel empathy for Kim because she comes from a successful co-parenting sort of situation. She knows how it works, and it's like she just wants to like make that happen for her own family. I don't know if I feel. I mean, Pete's kind of like living his life. So I don't know, like there's empathy, but I don't know. I don't
Right.
really feel bad for him. I mean,
Not at the same level.
Like, yeah, he's having a great time.
Mm-hmm. And so when you see people like commentate on some of these stories and some of the latest like Kanye posts or Kim's quotes that blow up the internet, like, because I like that you come from a place of having empathy for some of this stuff, because I think that that's sort of like that gets lost a lot of the time in these conversations. So what's your sort of like answer to that? Do you engage with people that are kind of coming just from a place of hate or a place of like, let's just like lob criticism at everyone? Like where do you stand in kind of that?
It's hard because like, I think that I post like my range of emotions online. It's like I might even start out from a place of like, I might be team one person where I start out. And then as the story unfolds, I'm like, okay, well, let's look at it from this angle. Let's look at it from this angle. The problem with like, opening yourself up and like giving an opinion online is like there's half the people that are gonna like hate your opinion, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of like deal with that. So I want to be like a reliable news source for people, but I know people also want to know my opinion. And so I try to show as many sides of it as possible so we can have a conversation. And it's not just me saying like this person is awful. Sometimes they are. If a person's truly awful, I will just say it.
Who is a truly awful person from your point of view? Like who is
Oh
somebody that you just
gosh.
like you have no holds barred about like talking about them?
You know, even though recently I kind of felt differently, but I will say Kelly from Real Housewives of OC, like I got to a point where I was just so over her. I actually just stopped posting about her entirely.
Yeah.
But then
Somebody
lately,
like that you'd have to just not give any air to, I think. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I
Because that's
just
what they want.
don't. Yeah. And so I feel like I was like getting on her, and then I just stopped posting because I was like, this is what she wants. Um, but
That's a good
even still,
example.
when I go back and watch old OC, like I'm like, damn, she was
I
good.
know. I
She was
know.
good
I
in the
know.
beginning, but
That woman lost the plot.
yeah.
Truly. And then I'm curious, I've seen that you've written about her and you've posted about her, Julia Fox, because I'm personally like mesmerized by her. Like I am so entertained. I like that she's in on the joke to some extent. I don't think fully. I think there's some kind of like awareness there. What are your thoughts on Julia Fox and sort of her kind of still remaining kind of in this conversation and kind of still going viral?
Look, I think she fully understood the assignment. Like, I just from like an anthropological place was
Right.
like, okay, like I'm gonna screenshot from like the first time I hear her name till now. And it's like I wanted to see how long it took for her to get to 1 million followers. And I was like, ooh, that only took like maybe a week. I don't even know if it was like a week or 2 weeks.
Amazing.
And look, I think that you choose a certain path in life and you're like, look, this is what I want to do. And the way our society works, you have to do certain things to get there. That's why sometimes I'm like, am I going to be famous? Because I don't even know if I'm willing to do all that.
Right. I mean, yeah, and she's willing to do that. And I think that like it's easy to criticize that, but if you do take a step back, like you just kind of as you just explained, it's like that's what it takes, and she's just being really forthcoming about it, which I really appreciate.
I mean, I will say my favorite Julia Fox thing right now, though, is her tutorials where she basically just cuts an outfit in half and then goes, tutorial. And I'm like, wait, you just cut it in half. You put one on your tits and one on your bottom. Okay, cool.
I watched all 17 minutes of that Fox Eye makeup tutorial that she did. And again, I'm just sort of like, it was imperfect. She was dropping makeup everywhere. She was running away from the camera to wipe her face off. She was messing it up. Like, I don't know. There's something to be said about what she is she's sort of breaking through some of this artifice, I think, around celebrity that again, like I think that people need to see some of that stuff to show that like it's
Yeah.
not all real.
And she, when the Uncut Gem thing came out, she made fun of herself. And
Right.
I always appreciate someone
Same.
who like wants to make fun of themselves because it's like you're a celeb. Like, get over it.
Yeah. No, I don't think you can really. I mean, I guess it's not true. Like there's a lot of celebrities that don't really have a sense of humor about themselves. But I don't. If you can laugh at yourself and you can break through that noise and just ignore it, like that's she's setting herself up for I think more sustained relevance and part of it being part of that conversation than I think a lot of people expected her to. And I think I'm impressed by it.
Agreed. Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah. And I think obviously the other big thing that's dominating the conversation right now beyond pop culture is what happened at the Oscars with Will Smith and Chris Rock. And I don't really want to get into it because I think that it's changing every like couple hours in terms of like a new apology is put out or a new source says something about XYZ. So I think that by the time this comes out, I don't want our conversation around it to be, too kind of already old. But I
Yeah.
also think that one kind of there are a lot of takes out there on what's happened, and one of the ones that I'm latching onto as a white man who I don't think that I see myself involved. I don't think that my point of view on this, on what happened, is necessarily apt or needed in some of this conversation. I think that that's a narrative that I've seen kind of come out, is like kind of being involved in these conversations is knowing when your point of view is not necessarily needed, or you don't really need to be putting your voice out there because there's other people's voices who are, you know, more affected by this and more valued in this space. And I'm curious, as someone who, you know, who you share your opinion and you share news about a lot of different topics in this broader pop culture realm. Do you ever think about that in terms of like, okay, is my voice needed here, or is my opinion really needed on this topic or in this situation? And I'm curious sort of how you wrestle with that, because I think that the inclination of a lot of people is just like react to everything and have the immediate reaction to everything and just put it out there, when it's like, I'm wondering where you stand with that thread of thought.
It's true. Like when I hear something, like I will look at something and I will say my immediate inclination with most things is like, I gotta talk about this.
Of course, yeah, and so is mine. But sometimes you have to take a step back, right?
Exactly. And like sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, you know, like let's chill on this. I mean, I think the hardest part is when I do make a reaction or I do post about something. For me, it's more about the comment section afterwards and like getting other people's immediate responses, which is what I don't necessarily want to hear all the time, which is why I'm so like sometimes on certain posts, I'm like, do I just turn the comments off?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't necessarily want to hear the feedback of everybody else that may not be pertinent, or just sometimes it's just hurtful. And then I'm like, am I perpetuating just like more nastiness in the world by even posting this? So I do try to put thought into the reason I'm posting everything I do. It's like, I want to talk about this because,
yeah.
But sometimes I just want to post
it. which I think is sometimes so fine, you know, which is it's not always, it's also not always as deep or as sort of, it doesn't always tie back up into like more important matters. But I think like this conversation around what happened at the Oscars, I think is one of those conversations that has really important ideas attached to it. So it's just, I find it frustrating to watch just like certain people that just aren't, you don't really have skin in the game. So why are you weighing in, you know?
Yeah, no. And I liked that, you know, this brought up, you know, people are saying this is the worst thing that happened at the Oscars. And then somebody's like, no, let me show you this clip of John Wayne trying to like attack this Native American, you know. And I was like, I had never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at this clip. There are a lot worse things that happen at the Oscars. And, you know, we don't have to rehash all of them, but like, let's put it in perspective.
Totally. Yeah. I think it helps you reframe old things. And I think that's, I mean, if we've learned anything in the past 2 years, that's an important tool to have, you know, and
yeah,
you know, it's been an interesting conversation to follow. I just think sometimes, you know, I find myself not wanting to wade into the water, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So when you're looking at, I mean, we're almost at April. This is going to come out next week. So in April, are there any other kind of pop culture celebrity threads that you're sort of following that you're excited to see where they go for the rest of this year? Like, is there a couple that's particularly interesting to you? Is there, I don't know, a show coming out that you're particularly excited about? We talked about Bravo stuff, but anything else out there that?
You know, I've always been obsessed with Lizzo, so I've gotten into her new show, Watch Out for the Big Girls.
I need to start it. Is it good?
So I've only watched the first episode, and I'm already just like, I was like already just like smiling and crying. You know, there was a story, I don't remember her name, but you know, a transgender dancer who is plus size. And, you know, it's just like getting to see people that you may not ever get to interact with on a daily basis, I think is what more people in this world need, right? Like if you live in Idaho, you might not get a chance to interact with these people, but seeing them on the screen, bringing some humanity to them, I think it'll bring empathy, and this is what the world needs more of. And so I'm excited to like get into that show. She just announced today she has a shapewear line, so I'm like,
yes,
you know,
I saw that.
So it's just certain people, like the Euphoria cast. Like I just want to know each of them individually what they're doing, right? Like even
Mm-hmm.
like Chloe Cherry, who I didn't even realize like she was a porn star and now she's on Euphoria. Like I had no idea. I love, I will say, I don't know, for lack of a better word, I love the weirdos in the world that just are doing things, and like those are my people.
I love that. And so yeah, it's fun to watch people with the unexpected paths get to a place where they can find success like that on a big stage, for sure.
It gives me hope because I have such an unexpected, unorthodox path, and I like to believe.
I love that. So, I mean, and let's end it on sort of with that idea is I'm curious for you, and maybe you don't want to speak it out loud, but I think some people do like speaking things out loud and manifesting them. What do you hope that some of this work that you're doing leads you to? Like, I mean, you have an amazing space on the podcast. You have an amazing space to write with the dip, and your social accounts have so many like loyal followers in this community that you've created. What do you hope what do you hope like sort of like that next step is for you, sort of in this space?
It's like every time someone comes around, it's like I look at that person, I'm like, I want to be them. I remember for the longest time, I wanted to be Wendy Williams, right? Before that, I wanted to be Howard Stern. And so now I want to get past the like, I want to be them and figure out like, who is Kiki Monique
Mm.
and how do I get people who want to be like me? And I want to create whatever space that is. And I think just talking about the things I want to talk about because I think I say things that are on people's minds sometimes. And I think just being me and authentic in whatever way that presents itself.
I think that's perfect. I think that's a lot of people say those kind of things of like, oh, this person's the next this person, or this person's the next that person. But you're Kiki Monique and you bring your own personal perspective on so many things. I think it's clearly very valued by a lot of people. And I think that's, you should embrace that. And it's special because I think that that's hard to get to a place where you feel that, and I'm glad you do feel that.
Yeah.
Well, Kiki Monique, do your plugs before we sign off. Where can people follow you, listen to the podcast, do what you need to do?
Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Talk of Shame, and listen to me on I'm Sorry, which is available wherever you get your podcasts.
Amazing. It was so nice to meet you, Kiki, and I look forward to talking again soon.
Yes, good to meet you too.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.